Public sector nurses calling in sick at the clinics and the Princess Margaret Hospital. At this point, we can't say exactly how many opted to participate in the unrest, but according to Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands, while not a formal strike, the impact's the same. Now, while it's no secret that the nurses union are miffed that expat nurses have been asked to work longer shifts, Dr. Sands tells us he's unaware of what may have spurred today's reported sick out. Now, we also spoke with Nurses Union President Amantia Williams, who when asked simply told us if the nurses are sick, they are sick. Nurse Williams says she'll issue a press statement on the issue on Tuesday. Call it a case of deja vu, another round of pushback on the Interception Communication Bill, commonly referred in some circles as the Spy Bill. Rights Bahamas is again urging the government to permanently shelve what it calls an invasive and oppressive piece of legislation, charging that Bahamians who cherish their freedom and jealousy guard their fundamental rights do not need clandestine spy agencies invading their privacy, as adequate laws already exist to achieve the stated crime-fighting aims of this, quote, ill-advised legislation. Rights Bahamas goes on to point out to the government that the granting of such wide-ranging powers, regardless of the original intent, will inevitably lead to abuse in the hands of unscrupulous politicians. The group cited the reading of the Save the Bay's private email in the House of Assembly 2 years ago. Supreme Court Justice Indira Charles later found that the then Education Minister Jerome Fitzgerald was not protected by parliamentary privilege when he did so and was fined $150,000. Save the Bays insists then that the bill must never see the light of day. The group pledges to use every means at its disposal, including the courts and its extensive network of international human rights partners, to fight what it says is an anti-democratic, repressive legislation to the bitter end. The Free National Movement has, however, argued that its legislation is different from that pushed by the former administration. Meanwhile, a noted attorney decries the current state of the judiciary. Queen's Counsel Maurice Clinton insists the judiciary is no longer independent, particularly as a substantive Chief Justice has yet to be appointed. And this some 4 months after Sir Hartman Longley vacated the post to become President of the Court of Appeal.
We do not ever want it to appear that the Chief Justice, whoever the occupant is in a position where when he speaks or just by his presence he is not recognized for what he is, which is head of an independent branch of government. When that person exists in an acting form, there is no such thing. It doesn't exist. The independency of the branch as perceived, that branch of government, does not exist. Because why isn't there substantive? Because the argument will be because the Prime Minister doesn't want to do so yet. Well, what it does show, then, is the supremacy of the executive.
Mr. Clinton says the Prime Minister should, at this point, be consulting with experienced members of the judiciary to make an educated decision as to who the next Chief Justice should be.
Rather than using the judiciary to enhance their own profile, they bring something to the judiciary. That's the other thing we do wrong. Most people go into the judiciary just to enhance their CVs. That should never be. In England, that would never be. You pick up an English report and you look at this one, you see that name, and you can go back to, and you could see at one point in time these outstanding lawyers. Their reputations preceded them to those institutions. And when they leave, the institution doesn't fall off. The point is, he should by now, even when it came to there being this vacancy, should have consulted the president of the Bar Council.
Furthermore, here's what the QC says the judiciary would like to see from the Prime Minister moving forward.
We just would be happy to see the Prime Minister discharge this constitutional function on him and not to continue to give the impression that somehow this is within his prerogative to do or not to do, as and when he feels. That is the wrong perception. Once you get into that kind of thinking, you're thinking, what I call second and third rate democracies. It ought not to be an issue.
Senior Justice Stephen Isaacs has for months been serving as acting Chief Justice. Press Secretary Anthony Newbold has said this issue should not be a cause for major alarm. In fact, during a February press briefing, he said the judiciary, the conduct of the business of law, nothing is shortchanged or hurt by this. You're watching Jcn News. There's more to come after this.
This segment of the news was brought to you by Alive.